Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Oakland Mills Community Association Village Board of Directors. We're going to start with our two usual administrative items. The first being approval of minutes from the February 24th board meeting. I'm going to take that as a motion from Andrew and a second from Bill. Any discussion of those minutes? Okay, all in favor of approving? 400. All right. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting? I'll take a motion from Andrew, take a second from Dr. Dan. Any discussion? All in favor? For
Five.
five. She joined. Okay, 500. All right, Bill, we're underway.
This is good. I was waiting for those. Getting ready to check mark that.
All right, first up, resident remarks. Any resident wishing to make remarks to the bill, but to the board, or to Bill, to Bill and the board, to the bill and the board, can do so now. You have up to 3 minutes. Anyone in the room? Anyone online? All right, that was an easy agenda item. Okay, well, we're on to old business already. So, has it been a month? It has been a month already, hasn't it? So a month ago, we heard from CA about potential replacement, refurbishments, retirements to play areas in Oakland Mills in the area behind Camelback Lane, Gatsby Green, and then kind of continuing on further back. Actually, this are we only doing OM 13 and 12 tonight? Were we
So
open all
the
three?
cluster is the three of them, but
Oh,
the
okay.
actual action will take place on Gatsby.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Two for replacement.
Okay, so we had put, I think, the community notice out for the 30 days about the tentative plans, and did we receive? Feedback?
It went directly to
Oh,
them.
okay.
So anybody
Very
who
good.
contacted me, I either told them to contact them, or if it was like today, I said we were having a meeting about it.
Okay, well, in that case, I'm going to hand it off to you now to let us know what you heard from the community.
Yeah, so we did get some community responses, pretty simple ones. The one we responded to was removal of the sandbox, just inquiring about the potential equipment going in. We sent out a plan for Camelback play area. And also let them know that there was a meeting this evening if we wanted to discuss it further. So that was about a week ago. So we
Didn't hear anything.
Yeah, we didn't hear
There were
anything
no,
back.
no additional responses, but it appeared from the email that she had not seen the plan, so perhaps the plan answered the question.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, one of her big concerns was must get rid of the sandbox. So
Interesting.
So we could run through the presentation again. It's up to the board. We've kind of done it both ways to look over the plans again. So it's kind of up to you guys. And if there's any community questions we could answer.
Do we feel we need another run through?
I don't. It's very well done.
Were we all here?
I studied it.
I should have asked that first. We were all here for that meeting.
I was out for that meeting, but I
Okay.
have faith that you guys make confident decisions. Also, the removal of the sandbox is something that I agree with. This guy, it gets everywhere.
well, and also the sandbox is used
Cat.
by inappropriate
Yes.
animals.
Gotta get to that next.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
also, there's just a lot of random hazards you can find in there, so I don't see a parent be less interested in it. But
Well, and that sandbox, because of the tree cover, it never dried out. It
Yeah.
was, no one ever wanted to go. It was always damp and yucky.
I do know we have a resident who joined after Residents Speak Out who had emailed me about, I don't know if he has any additional questions, Mr. Castellano.
Castellano?
Sorry.
It's close. Yeah. No, I just saw it because I live on Jimita Downs, and my daughter and my second daughter like to use the different lots, and I was like, what is this about? And so I'd never joined one of these. And so I was communicating with Miss Warren, and yeah, just trying to understand what was going on and what it meant to be reimagined, and I saw the plan to get rid of one, reimagine one, and re-renovate another. And I wasn't sure if it was. I guess it's just those three, right? It's like a pilot, right, for larger area.
Yeah, OM 12 and 13 would
Whoever's
be
speaking,
the,
can you raise your hand? The picture's blurry.
The mic is right there.
um, so OM 12 and OM
Oh,
13
there you are.
would be
Sorry,
the
your
two,
voice, disembodied voice. Yeah.
would be the ones that are reimagined, at this time. So OM 12 that would be with a climber, the seating area, picnic table, and it has a swing off to the side there that's currently there. OM 13 would be the one that's converted over to the seating area with the bench and play panel.
And then OM 14.
Yeah, eventually,
Ultimately.
yeah, once that fails a safety inspection, that would be replaced with a 2 to 12 unit. But it has to go through the inspection cycle. Once it fails, that triggers that to go to the 2 to 12 unit.
And what is the frequency of the inspection? Yearly, by every other year?
A structural inspection once a year.
Okay.
We're actually getting ready to hit that phase now. Within the next couple of weeks, we usually do them in the spring.
Are you familiar with where OM 12 and 13 are relative to Jamina Downs?
So I don't know the numbers.
Yeah.
I know
So,
the there's a one you kind of have to take that's kind of like on a hill, and
right.
then there's one that's right by a bridge. That thing that's green, Gatsby Green, and then there's one by like the lakey area. I don't know the
Right.
numbers. I just know the
Okay.
geography.
So just to make sure you're clear as you look at the plan, OM 12, the Camelback area, that's the one alongside the path that basically runs kind of parallel behind Jamina Downs. So it connects, roughly the area that's kind of between uh, uh, Jamina Downs and Jacob's Ladder. Um, it runs between those two roads and runs all the way to the other side of Camelback Lane, kind of the north side of Camelback Lane. So that's the play area that's kind of to the left as you're walking toward that north side of Camelback Lane. And then OM 13, the Gatsby Green one, that's that real small one near the bridge that kind of sits between basically like between Gatsby Green and New Leaf Court in that little area right up against the stream.
Yep.
Yeah, Chris, the 113 is the one where you normally are swinging your daughter. It's 113.
Okay. Who's talking? So I know who
That's
knows who I
Lewis,
am.
that's Lewis. That's Lewis. I'm
Oh,
walking
there
my
you are.
dog on the car.
Are you on the video camera, Lewis? Or maybe you're not.
I don't know where the camera's right there.
Okay, there is. Got it. Sorry. So it's just these disembodied voices. And I was like, got it. I was like, wait a second. Who knows who I am? Got it. Hi, Lewis. Thank you.
So if you want to just flip
Can we
to
see
the
these
next
charts?
slide.
Can we see these charts? Yes,
Yeah.
yes. What's going on?
If you,
Tell me what you want me to.
so those are, this is Tim. I'm showing Steve up here. Those are the images of the three clusters. And so offshore green is the one that nothing's going to happen to in the very near term. Camelback OM 12 is going to get a climbing structure. It's going to be repurposed with a climbing structure, a picnic table, which is something that a lot of people are liking, and then a seating area. And then OM 13, where you swing a lot, that swing is the area for that swing is way too small than what's permitted for safety standards. And so that's going to need to be repurposed as a sway bench with a picnic table and play panel. So
Got
the
it.
next slide will show the one more, I guess. So that's the plan. Back one. That's the plan for the climbing structure, and you can see the red is the existing area, the red
Yeah.
lines. The climbing structure will sit in there. Then we've got the picnic table and the bench. And then the swing on the right side will remain. And so that might become your new swing spot, but
Yeah.
it'll be enhanced with a nice climber that's shown on the next.
Will the existing I don't, seats, I guess you call them, on the swing stay the same? So like one like infant toddlery one and one like big kid one? Or will it be two like bucket seats? Or just will it just stay the same?
One of each.
One of each. Okay.
On it, you usually have one of each. So,
And then the next slide shows a similar project over on Camelback in Oklahoma Mills.
so we installed this unit, actually over at King's Drive.
I'm sorry, why did I?
Yeah, this is not,
That's
Yeah.
incorrect.
Yeah, so this unit was installed, this is a photo of one we.
Oh,
put
way
in
over
some-
there,
Yeah,
right,
way over. So.
Mhm.
you're proposing for OM12?
That would be very similar to what
Got it.
the
Question about the roads.
No, I
Is it
just.
not important?
What's that now?
Can you make it orange instead of green?
so
Might have a.
We
Mills.
maybe
Yeah,
good, but
Oakland
I don't,
Mills.
it's gonna,
It's just a question,
Yeah.
that's all I can say.
that's a CA color scheme, so all the units are in that color scheme. That way it can be associated with Columbia Association, that's why we have that color.
and one of
Branding.
it was one of the process that we went through in terms of developing these play clusters was to create uniformity, and so just
I'm kidding.
And I think I caught the tail end of the conversation about the sand pits or the sandbox area. What's the word on that?
So new play areas will not have sandboxes installed. Over the last few years, I was actually kind of in charge of putting the cameras up and seeing what was happening, and there's lots of animals and you wouldn't believe it, people sometimes doing things in sandboxes they shouldn't be doing. So we're actively removing them as we're installing new playgrounds.
Okay. And for the so the last picture, sorry, one more question. The not the last picture, the King's Contrivance, the KC-12, it has like the four swings. Is there an option for the Camelback Lane swing arrangement to be expanded to two sets of two, or is it just small? Is it too small to just be kept with the current arrangement?
So the current arrangement would have to stay there with the T swing just because of the large tree canopy there. And the height of the walls would have to be pretty tall in that area, so. Actually, for a swing like what's pictured here, it's actually like 32 by 32. It's the area you need to install the swings.
Got
So
it.
without removing large trees, which we tend not to do, it wouldn't be feasible.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions? So what, if anything, do you need from us to proceed?
If the village board would like to write a letter of support, that would be great. We'll get moving and if things work. Usually takes about 8 to 10 weeks to get equipment once it's procured. And then, once we get that, we kind of get with the contractors and get a time schedule to get it installed.
Okay.
So I would like to, get it in this summer.
And would the letter of support be addressed to Sean or who's the audience for it?
Use Jason and Jeremy would be great. That would be all. I put it in the file with it and store it and. So. Yeah, we would love to get moving and get it in this
All right.
summer.
Good job, you guys. This is Karen. I'm online. Good job.
Thank you.
So everyone agree we want to,
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
To make a letter to approve or to at least voice our support for this.
we can do that.
Letter of support.
Is there a second?
Absolutely. Yep.
Any further discussion?
Oh, sorry.
Can I answer the question? I just came from the CA Pathways meeting over in the library earlier this afternoon.
That's where it's at.
And one of the options is to widen the paths. Is anything you're doing here going to interfere with that, or you're going to do something and they're going to come back and potentially ruin something you've just done by widening the paths?
No, not in this area for sure.
You're sure?
Yeah.
You've looked at that, okay.
Yep. Yeah, Tim,
Yeah, the pathway widening is sort of something that we're looking at ongoing, and actually. I don't believe that any of these would necessarily be a linkage that would be looked at for widening, but there's plenty of space within this to increase it. I believe that the path currently there is.
I believe that to be full.
An 8-foot wide path, so it's a fairly wide path.
Yeah, okay, all right. I have some questions about the widening, but this is not the right
Yeah.
venue for that, but okay, so, all right.
Okay, so that was a
We
motion.
have an open
Second.
motion.
We have,
Dan was the motion. Who was the second?
I believe it was Andrew, wasn't it?
no,
Or it was Bill.
No,
I'm sorry, Bill.
quicker on the draw.
All right, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
So this is just to write a
Okay,
letter.
this is just a
Write a letter of
5-0.
support.
Yep.
Yep, 5.
Probably next time. Be like,
Thank you all very much.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
And soon as we, get some things in order on our end, we'll start, getting quotes and get it procured, and, we'll send out some notification letters ahead of time when the project's moving forward.
Now,
Fantastic.
I did have one question. When you were talking about OM14 waiting to fail inspection, what exactly does that entail? And I think I might have missed this from in between meeting where you were going.
So we go through once a year, usually in the spring, to do our yearly inspection. If it fails, a structural inspection. So that could be post on the floor, a swing failing, it could be multiple things. Or we're to the point we're putting too much money into it for repairs, it justifies the replacement.
I understand.
And so those get categorized at the end, and we have, how many do we do a year?
It should be about 7, depending on.
And so we take the highest priorities and take care of them.
Understanding? Right.
No, it's a great process and comes up with great results. So thanks so much for coming by.
It's worked out well so far, so.
Excellent.
And since the pathway project got brought up, thank you.
Yeah.
If you'll see some signs going out, and there's gonna be a QR code on that, and it's gonna be a short survey about how you use the path, and section at the bottom that makes it longer if you want to add any thoughts or concerns or questions, then we're looking forward to getting that information back over the next I think month and a half. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, board chair report. Unfortunately, this meeting, I don't have a lot of good news.
Mhm.
I talked with the owner of Pizza Man, and it sounds like the former Second Chance property is not going to be a winner for them, for reasons of layout and, other issues. It's not going to be something that works. So I'm still hopeful that over the next year he can work, something out with the current landlord, but I think we shall see. Unfortunately, there's just not another commercial landlord to talk to here in Oakland Mills, because we're at a place where, we were hoping to be many years ago, and that's just all but one vacancy. So I'll keep talking to him about that and see how that goes. Obviously also the Board of Education voted 5-2 not to renovate Oakland Mills High School. There were actually 3 different options brought before them at that last meeting. 2 would have included renovations for Oakland Mills High School, and they went for the one who didn't. And this is where I'm now going to go into my monologue, because I'm tired of being nice.
Was that vote with I thought they would just brought Oakland Mills down, but was there a separate vote or to give them special funding or this was just the original vote to keep?
I mean, this was the vote for what they're going to fund in fiscal 27,
Okay.
but
Okay.
this also uses what's left of the Built to Learn funds, which would have largely, funded a renovation of Oakland Mills High. with those funds now committed to other projects, that was a one-shot deal, unless the state legislature comes up with something again sometime in the future. So, uh, the likelihood of a major high school project getting done in the next few years, I think is pretty slim, given the county's finances and the state's finances. Um, so no, I'm not gonna be nice. My thoughts on that meeting. So, several members spoke about how they built this formula, they agreed to the formula. Maybe it's not perfect, but it's objective. We have to go with what we have. Uh, I disagree with that. I think it's one thing if you've developed a formula and maybe you have two high schools that are of similar age, similar construction, and maybe it's debatable which one should be number one and number two, right? You weight things a certain way, one rises to number one. You weight things another way, another rises to number one, and it's debatable. You're talking on the margins. But they basically said that they have faith in the formula that has Oakland Mills High School behind Longreach, Wild Lake, Marriott's Ridge, Reservoir. These are all schools built in the 90s or early 2000s. I don't know how you can say that's, an objective quality formula. And a couple of them, made the point of, well, everyone thought it was fine until we, saw the names of the schools. And then when the right names weren't at the top, we're complaining about it. Well, yeah, that happens all the time. My background is in research and analytics. Sometimes we devise something that we think is really going to work well, and then we go to apply it in the real world and we go, ooh, well, it looked good on paper, but that's certainly not working out well. And then we go back to the drawing board and figure out what's wrong with our formula. We don't just, force it through because we thought it was good when we developed it. So I take issue with that. But quite honestly, the other thing I take issue with is basically the what a couple of the members said, and I won't name names. You can go watch it for yourself. But in one case, a member was speaking not just for Oakland Mills High, but also just in favor of equity and breaking this pattern of constantly talking about it, but then going in another direction, which is what the board did. And while the member was saying that, other members were laughing, and got called out for that and said, that's not what we're laughing at, but I don't know what else funny was going on in that room. It's supposed to be serious business. We had another member who, basically, well, actually, let me say this. The student member of the board, Aaron Alistar, was probably the most eloquent speaker of the night. And he spoke on behalf of his constituents, right? He represents the students of the school system, and he said what he was hearing. And what he hears from students at Oakland Mills is the Board of Education doesn't care. They pulled this out from under us. He got chastised by a couple of other members of the board. Basically, how dare you say that? How anyone say we don't care? We spend all this time, blah, blah, blah. We care, we care, we care. Well, guess what? He's entitled to his free speech. Our students are entitled to feel the way they feel when they're going to a school in that condition. If you don't want to be on the Board of Education because it takes too much of your time and it doesn't pay enough, leave. Leave. Because we all sit here and we don't complain about our time. We don't get paid anything. What message is that sending to PTA members, boosters members, anyone else who puts volunteer time into these schools? That we have members of the Board of Education sitting in a meeting and hearing this feedback and complaining they're not appreciated enough, they're not paid enough to sit there and hear that. That's bullshit. Pardon my words, but that is complete bullshit. The other bullshit I heard was suddenly they're saying, oh, we're not going to listen to the loudest voices anymore. People, we're not, it's just because people are advocating that isn't what we should do. Well, what a sudden change of events that was, because a few months ago, when you were looking at redistricting, and one of those select elementary schools was up for redistricting, it took you about a minute to take that one off the table because you didn't want to mess with that. You went to two other elementary schools that aren't going to speak up as loud and don't have the affluent populations, and you messed around with them, but you took one off the table immediately. So again, bullshit. Don't tell me no more advocacy. Don't tell me you're not going to listen to voices. You're going to listen to the voices you want to listen to. So if you don't want to hear that feedback, then either do the right thing or shut up and do your job and don't complain. because a lot of people spend a lot of time advocating. They don't get compensated for that. A lot of people spend a lot of time volunteering on village boards, on schools, in various other capacities. They don't get compensated for that. And you know what? A lot of parents have to take their kids to doctor appointments and miss work because of the exposure to mold and everything, and they don't get compensated for that. So don't sit there and chastise the student member of the board or people from the community for coming out and advocating and complaining that you'd rather be somewhere else. If you want to be somewhere else, resign. It's very easy. Resign. Let someone else take the job. Thank you. I'm done.
Two comments, Jonathan, if I could. One is I'll get to the school in a minute. Klein Properties and the Second Chance, that's been vacant for several
Yeah.
years. And I'm looking at why Klein Properties isn't more interested in renting it out in some way, shape, or form, letting a dead building sit there for years, either tear it down, build new, or renovate it to make it more attractive. But if you're in the business they're in and it's been vacant for several years, they're not doing everything they can to get that squared away, in my opinion. Okay. Second thing
So,
is,
so let, let me let me respond to that.
Sure.
So one of the reasons they were interested in perhaps talking to Pizza Man was apparently they were very close with another restaurant and it fell through.
Okay. Okay. I'm looking at it, you know, numbers don't lie. It's been years sitting there
Yes.
with nothing. So if I own that property and I was a landlord residential for 21 years, you've got to fix it, tear it down, build new, or fix it so it's attractive to the marketplace. If you're sitting on a dead property for years, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Period. End of story. Okay. Because I kept my two properties up to a level where many people come by and say, these are the courtyard Marriotts of rentals in Howard County. So I know what I'm talking about. Number two, the school board, if I remember correctly, they voted to approve the renovations in Oka Mills sometime, was it July of last year?
Was it a June or July? It was an early summer meeting. Yes.
Okay.
And it was unanimous.
And unanimous approval. Then was it in September that they voted to take it off the top of the list and put it further down?
Yes.
When was that, in September?
I think it was November,
Or no-
wasn't it?
Oh,
November?
wait, no, I'm sorry. That's right. It came up, it came up in a September meeting. The vote was in November. Yes.
Okay, vote November. So July, August, September, October, November. So in 4 months, and I put it on the record for the people of Oak Mills. In 4 months, the board went from unanimously approving it to originally a 6-1 vote against it. What caused radical change in 4 months? I have questions. Did the board members get paid off? If so, what did they get paid? I'm not making any accusations or statements. I'm just asking questions. Thank you.
Yeah,
Anything
I think
else?
that we like I mean, so I mean, Oakland Mills that we don't have or they don't have funding for this coming fiscal year. I think we should keep it on our radar and try to work towards for the next fiscal year.
Oh, we definitely will.
28.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess the question is how we do that, but or we can keep doing more of the same, but I definitely think we should keep working on that.
We definitely will. And I think one of the things we need to make sure, and this is where I'm also going to break with precedent because I don't normally get involved in what's going on in other communities or try to, do anything to prevent other communities from doing what they do. But if there if there is an effort to build a high school, a 14th high school before a school like Oakland Mills, or heck, even Centennial, is taken care of, then I mean, really, I think most of Howard County should rise up and oppose something like that. You can't keep adding to your physical plan if you can't take care of what you have, and population projections really don't warrant it. And I'm honestly, disappointed that we have some candidates for District 2, meeting with certain people who advocate for, building a high school and shutting down Oakland Mills, which makes absolutely no fiscal sense at all because you already have the land, you already have the facility, you already have the bus routes, you have everything here. And I saw something recently that advocated for that and also paid lip service to renovating Oakland Mills. No, a high school is a huge expense. Every time you commit to a project, that pushes any other high school project way back unless there's some windfall of money. And, quite honestly, if that's the direction this county starts going in, I think that's where we start talking to the state and say, this would be a completely irresponsible use of state matching funds to construct a new high school when we have existing high schools that need investment and that can handle, the capacity projected for this county in the coming years because we're pretty well built out and we're definitely pretty well built out on this side of Howard County. Now, maybe what happens in Gateway could change that at some point. I don't know, but right now, it doesn't warrant it. So, when I hear that certain meetings are happening or I hear, oh, we could have both. No, no, we need to be first in line.
One of the things that kind of, amongst many things that shocked me was, to me, not that, news reporting, et cetera, always, means that you should pay that much more attention, if that makes any sense. But I feel like all of the interested parties that listened, that were there for all of the protests, the meetings at the school, interviewing students from all the different news affiliations, all the papers. And to me, to blatantly ignore all of that and act as if we're acting irrational for some of the things that we're requesting, it doesn't, I agree with Bill, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And after it happened, I watched the majority of the meeting, and I also followed a lot of the comments on different pages, something I probably shouldn't have done because it only angered me further. But one of the things I did, and I think I was talking to Amy about it, because of course we had a conversation after it happened, was there are a couple of very, very high profile Supreme Court cases regarding students being able to go into a building that is not going to make them sick, that isn't falling down, that is conducive to learning, basically, that when you read them, they're not, Supreme Court cases. They have a lot of language in them, but when you read it, it's very much what I feel is what's happening at Oakland Mills. I mean, all of these testimonies don't lie. All of these students aren't making this up. What do they have to gain from making it up? It's nothing. All that they want is to have a building that they don't get sick in, that they can learn in. And I just question how it was just completely, how do you justify that? That's how do you justify that? Exactly. Yeah.
My daughter, who's 19, she went to the school because she's home this semester. She went to the school musical last week. And as soon as she came in the door, she was like, I'm starting to have anxiety and PTSD. Because, I mean, there was a lot of stuff with that, but also just her health while she was in that building. Because she had a class online in the library when it was shut down, and she has a mold allergy. And she said she constantly had a runny nose. She constantly had issues. And we know this, we've had stories, but it's my personal experience with it. But my question is isn't all of this supposed to be discussed in open meeting, like in the school board meetings? Their reasoning, why they're doing it. It should be a mystery, right?
Well, they gave their reasoning. They have a formula that said to do that.
Yeah, but why did they ignore what the staff said? What was their reasoning for that?
Because they have a formula.
That's circular. That's not a reason.
Yeah, you know what, you guys? Can I jump in? I can't figure out how to raise my hand on this. One of the things I've been noticing across the board is sometimes they want something to fail. And I don't understand why they voted for it last year only to turn around and not vote for it. I'm with Bill on that one. But and I normally I wouldn't be a conspiracy theorist, but after all the stuff that's come out of the Department of Justice over the last several months, I feel like, oh, I guess it's possible. The village of Oakland Mills is very close to the downtown area. And that high school is sitting on a lot of land. And you could say, well, it's beyond repair. We're just going to let it collapse and we'll build houses on it. Or we'll build an apartment building on it, some kind of luxury apartment building. And maybe that's not what people are thinking, but it just feels to me, as with everything in Columbia, everything in Columbia feels like right now that it's a target. Whether they're talking about demolishing our pool, not fixing up our high school, like, I don't know. But I think Amy and Bill, you guys, like, there's more going on behind the scenes that we have no clue about. And I don't know how you get that information. I'll take my silver tinfoil hat off now.
No, no. Oh, by the way, I meant to bring up something else. This wasn't a Supreme Court case about condition of the schools, but I meant to bring this up. There was a Supreme Court case in the early 70s about protest of the Vietnam War. It was Tinker versus Des Moines, where students wanted to wear black armbands to a high school, and the school said, "No, you can't do that. It'll disrupt the learning environment." And the Supreme Court actually ruled 7-2 in the students' favor. And it said, students and teachers do not shed, here's the quote, do not shed their constitutional rights to freedom of speech or expression at the schoolhouse gate. The court took the position that school officials could not prohibit only on the suspicion that the speech might disrupt the learning environment. What happened at Oakland Mills when they wanted to time a protest for the day of a Board of Education meeting? Not approved, unexcused absence. They did it anyway. God bless them, they did it anyway. There are protests all the time. The students were trying to work something out where they would have adjusted scorp time so it wouldn't disrupt the learning environment. No, can't protest the Board of Education decision. And then again, you have a couple of members of the board at that meeting a couple of weeks ago, basically chastising the student member of the board and students for having the nerve to say we don't think you care. For
I think you
speaking.
can protest, Jonathan. But I think the school is also
Hmm.
allowed, if you did it during the school day, they can still hold you accountable. I don't think the school was wrong. But they were trying to punish and retaliate against the students.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So no, I mean honestly, I don't know if there's any more behind this. I mean, honestly, it's quite confusing, right? Because have you driven by the middle school this week? The whole back of the building is torn down, right? So we're dramatically expanding that building, renovating the whole thing. It's going to be an 800 seat middle school. It technically the middle school and high school aren't on the amount of land that they should have that they're actually short land already. So if you give up the high school property, the middle school has no, basically no land at all because the addition's going on its field. It does also seem to be an odd choice, to invest all of that in the middle school, expand it, create an 800 seat middle school right in the heart of basically in the heart of Columbia, right this is probably the geographic population center of Howard County, and then to give up the high school would make no sense. So, quite honestly, I don't believe that's the plan, but I believe there are people out there who keep floating that idea, and the more they float that, and the more you know theoretically legitimate candidates agree to have sit downs with them, I think the more dangerous they get.
Wonder if there's a plan to like have the high school take classes in the middle school at night or something once the middle school vacates the facility, and then they could have just use the same building at night or something. I guess that's not realistic, but
A logistic nightmare. But I mean, look, having lived here my entire life, I'm not surprised by what I've seen. They continuously look down at this neighborhood, the population that lives within it. So to hear that they even gave us a chance to get it renovated in the first place felt like false hope, because I've seen this time and time again. It's part of the reason why I joined this, is because I thought they did a bad job, not just the school board, but Howard County, Columbia in general, has always kind of looked down on areas that don't make as much money or don't score as high when it comes to rankings of high schools. I've had people talk to me at my job. They're like, I went to the #1 high school in the state. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't. And we're in the exact same position as we are right now. So I don't think it made any difference that your little number was a little higher. But people look at metrics these days more than they look with their eyes. They see numbers, they see spreadsheets, they see Excel graphs, and they think that that will tell the full story. Because we're led to believe that there is objective value for everything that exists out there. And that if you simply just make less money, you're not as important on that graph. And I've seen it my whole life, hasn't changed since I was born in 95. The only thing we can really do is to vote out people who don't do a good job.
Mhm.
And as the
Mhm.
board, we are technically a political body and we are allowed to throw our weight in whatever direction we deem. Did our representative vote for or against the Open Mills renovation? They voted against it.
Our representative voted against that and also made the motion not to renovate Oakland Mills Middle, but fortunately lost on that one.
And here's the question, why are they our representative?
Yeah.
Why, how has this continued to be the case that we elect someone who votes against our own interests? Why isn't there more of a groundswell effort against someone who's trying to actually take away our taxes? Because that's all it is it's an allocation of tax money, and they are going against the interests of people who pay that money into it. So I would be completely for doing whatever we can to remove anyone who is in Oakland Mills who's voting against it, simply put. And if I have to do it myself, I'll do it myself.
I did look that
There you
up.
go. That's what I was waiting for. Dan for Board of Ed.
There you
I
go.
don't have the time for this, but I'm just angry.
Yeah, but there is a process for removing a board member and there are specific reasons, which I think this person could fit at least two of them, but I don't know enough.
It might
But if
not,
there's somebody that wants to pursue that, they can ask for them to be removed.
Well, one of the
I don't-
problems is we have a dearth of journalism in our location,
Mhm.
right? We don't have a local paper covering this stuff. And even if you consider the Baltimore Banner as somewhat of a local paper, they do have local flavor. I think they're really more of an upscale blog. Their journalists do not do a good job. I mean, just basic journalism. So, we don't have people. I mean, maybe this is where social media and a lot of people are quitting TikTok now, but TikTok kind of changed the world's view on what was happening in the Middle East. And I think that this is one of those things where maybe the students need to be making TikToks about the mold in their school, getting people's attention on social media or whatever video thing they have where everybody in Howard County gets to see what's actually happening at their school. Citizen reporters.
Anything else? But no, Andrew, 100%. We're not stopping. Yeah, it's more a question of where will the money come from now with built to learn funds gone? But it, I mean, but bottom line, they still need to fix this stupid formula. If they rely on this, for the next, I don't know how many years, who knows what kind of weird off the wall goofball decisions they're going to make.
and then publicize the formula, every single item on there, how they decided.
I don't know if you can really, maybe if you did enough MPIAs worded the right way, you could, reverse engineer it and figure out everything, but no, there's no smoking gun thing where I can just look at Oakland Mills and say, that's why they're so far down. I mean, things have come out,
It's
like,
a proprietary.
Oh.
So someone said it was a formula.
well, no, but the I think the information about every school being fed into it is not necessarily easily accessible to everyone. I think that's the challenge. And like one of the things I learned, which I'm assuming is true, right? I couldn't even necessarily completely confirm it for myself, was I think something that I said in one of our past meetings. Um, take a major take a major system, take your boilers or your chillers or something. If they're beyond useful life expectancy by 1 year, it scores the same as if they're beyond useful life expectancy by 30 years. So if a larger, two-story building like Longreach, which is 30 years old, has more boilers than a smaller single-story building like Oakland Mills 30-year-old boilers, there are fewer of them, so Longreach gets more points because they have more boilers that are. I'm making up these numbers, but you know what I'm saying. It's and and again, I think we all know you can do anything with numbers and statistics. One of the board members made a terrible analogy. I think she actually made the point. that we're trying to make about how bad this formula is. She said, it's debatable, right? Like there are all kinds of statistics. So people debate who the best hitter is. Was it Babe Ruth or Jose Canseco? And I'm like, well, exactly. That's it, right? You could debate maybe Babe Ruth and Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron was better, but you could debate maybe Babe Ruth and Hank Aaron, right? That's that marginal thing. But Babe Ruth and Jose Canseco is kind of like, Oakland Mills being 40th behind Marriott's Ridge and Long Reach. You prove the point. Like, yeah. I don't know whether we're Babe Ruth or Jose Canseco, but either way, the gap is this big. You were trying to make a point about a gap being that big. So talk about Babe Ruth and Hank Aaron, or Hank Aaron, Roberto Clemente. And I think I posted a comment somewhere on Facebook that said, yeah, I can devise a formula that would make Jose Canseco the best hitter. I'm going to introduce one more variable and weight it very heavily. Babe Ruth may have more home runs, Hank Aaron may have more home runs, but if I weight home runs that have bounced off your head as a fielder and gone over the fence, Jose Canseco is now the best hitter in baseball because of the three of them, I believe he's the only player who ever hit a home run on defense by letting a ball bounce off his head over the fence. So there you go. I can devise a formula that makes Jose Canseco the best hitter ever.
So basically what we're missing is what's kind of happening right now. We're missing humanity. Like too much just going into algorithms and formulas and everything like that. You need to take a step back and go back to the humanity of it, the students and what their experience is. And
they're not allowed to say that anymore. It hurts their feelings because then it sounds like they don't care.
it's very good for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And ironically, the person who said that is the one who turned down the invitation to go meet with them by saying, I've been in the building before.
Go stay
You
in the
know,
building for a minute.
I have to give credit, right? A couple of other people who voted against it, at least when they were invited, they showed up. Okay. So if I'm rating people on a scale of care, I have to say the people who at least showed up, even if they didn't vote for it, at least cared to take time out of their day to show up instead of saying, I've seen it before. I don't need to meet with you.
So the portables, putting the portables out there, doing the HVAC little upgrades, that was all part of the plan, right? Leading up to, were the portables part of
No.
that too?
The portables are because it's over capacity.
So that wasn't, because it seems
That's
they were taking steps towards the renovation.
no, the portables don't have to do with the renovation. The portables are because it's a school with over 1,500 kids and it's a 1,400 seat school. The HVAC repairs that closed the past 2 summers also were not part of the renovation. That was emergency funds just to keep it going.
I will say the irony is the portables, those have the best air ventilation systems in the building currently. Because that's where my wife works. She's in one of those portables out there. So she has no complaints about
Yeah, they're nice.
portable because
Yeah.
she's in the building. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything
Yeah.
else on the board report?
And one thing that is happening, so some of that money, and it was just a small fraction of it, is actually going to Jeffers Hill, which is part of the Oakland Mills cluster. They're in Long Reach, for an HVAC project. But if the village of Long Reach were to ask, or the Jeffers Hill PTA were to ask, I would say, watch out, because now that they put money into your HVAC, you're not going to score so high to get the rest of that building renovated. And that's another one that has been neglected for many, many years. This seems to be what they're doing now. It's like you get renovation, you get renovation, you get renovation. We'll put some money in so you're good enough. I'm done
For now.
for now. Karen, what do you have to share with us tonight?
I just put in a fresh cough drop, so we're good to go here. I'm going to keep it short, but Jonathan, I feel your pain. It is everything you said just felt so familiar to me. I was like, God, he could be describing the Columbia Association Board of Directors, and I do agree with the comments that Dan, I think it was Dan made about the more affluent you are, the more likely you are to be protected. Because I remember when I first got on the board and that stream restoration was happening in Long Reach, the area that they said, oh, we don't need to reach one can come out. That's the more affluent area over in Phelps Lock. They weren't going to mess with their woods and their stream, but they were still going to do it to the rest of the areas, which was actually an economic justice issue. So there was that. But anyway, the board can say that they care all they want, but actions speak louder than words. That's all I'll say on that piece. Okay, the Columbia Association Board at our last meeting The majority of the conversation was about board processes and procedures, and this is important, even though it sounds boring, is that there will be even less transparency next in the next term than there was in the previous term. They want to reduce the meetings down to 8, and I think at least 2 of those will be town halls. And if you come to the town hall, it's not a good town hall because you don't stand up at a microphone while all your fellow residents are around and you ask the board and senior leadership team questions. Somebody stands on the stage and gives a presentation, and then they end the meeting basically, and you go out to the lobby of the last time they had it at the Wild Lake Village Center at Slayton House, where you can go to each table and talk to whichever senior leadership team member you want, or you can talk to a board member. So all of the conversations end up being very quiet, and you can't really hear what your fellow residents are thinking. So, of course, as you can predict, I do not like that at all. I prefer a real town hall where everybody gets to say what they think and everybody gets to hear that. And I just feel like more and more things are being pushed into the dark than need to be. So we shall see. But that will probably be our next meeting isn't till close to the end of March. So that will probably be what we vote on I think in the end of March or at one of our meetings in April. So I'm disappointed, of course. I would like to see the residents have more insight into what the Columbia Association is doing, but we seem to be moving in the opposite direction. That's all I got.
So, this whole concept. I mean, there's potentially a way to make it work. Maybe it's still not the ideal thing, but years ago, Bill and I participated in something. There were community meetings on one of the redistrictings for the school system, and they were at different high schools, and they held one at Oakland Mills High School. And we all gathered in the cafeteria. And tell me if I'm remembering. I know you were there. Tell me if I'm remembering this correctly.
Hmm.
So, there was kind of a plenary session, right, where everyone's together. And then they broke us out into smaller groups where we could talk about certain subjects. But we basically, recorded notes, or maybe we even had those big easels with the, giant post-it pads. I forget exactly what the setup was, but there was something where we were recording what was going on at every table, because then it was all aggregated and presented out as an aggregate to the room. So it was kind of all together, split up, all together again. Um, Potentially something like that could work, because then you can get people in smaller groups talking, because there's some value in that, but you don't lose the full room dynamic.
So nobody keeps notes. Nobody's keeping minutes at those tiny tables. There's no organization to it. It's just go out to whichever table you want. So, for example, at the last town hall, a lot of people showed up because they were upset about the pools. And so you had about 30 people in the audience who specifically wanted to talk about the pool issue. And so after the meeting and also Eric Grunberg moved, and I seconded to hold a normal resident speak out so they could actually come to the mic and say what they had to say. And the board voted it down, even though the audience was definitely in favor of that. And then we just broke out and everybody went out and everybody kind of crowded around Dan Burns in the lobby area. Couldn't really hear what he was saying because so many people were trying to get their questions asked and answered. So there really wasn't any organization. Nobody was keeping notes. Because I get what you're saying, Jonathan. The second thing is the Newtown Zoning Task Force in one of our earlier meetings was on Zoom, and then we had breakout groups, and someone filed a complaint with, I don't know if it was the Attorney General who they filed the complaint with, but basically we had violated the Open Meetings Act because everybody couldn't hear what was going out in the breakout sessions. So for the Homeowners Act, every meeting is supposed to be public. And my complaint, one of my major complaints with the way that we do the town halls is if you can't attend in person, you don't get to hear what's going on. Whereas if it was a town hall where everybody got to stand up at a mic, ask their questions, all that kind of stuff, do a regular town hall, we would have it recorded. People could be on Zoom, they could hear everything, but when you go out into the lobby, there's no Zoom, nobody's keeping minutes. And if you can't come personally to the meeting, And there are residents here who physically can't come to meetings. They miss out on all of that. So I just feel like it's done that. I believe that it's done that way intentionally because the residents have been incredibly successful in putting a stop to things that they didn't like, whether it was the stream restoration or last year with the villages. There have been a couple of things that have happened where the residents know about it, they don't like it, they speak up, and then CA has to retract. They don't do it anymore. I was actually shocked at who voted for the pool thing, despite the fact that so many people don't want their pools replaced with a splash pad. And I was really proud of our village for sending in a letter, but they just chose to just outright ignore. That's why I was saying I feel very similar to you watching what happened with the Board of Ed is that despite the outcry, despite the fact that what people want or don't want, I think people are just being ignored now. I think the
Mhm.
governments are just like, we can do what we want. There's nothing you can do about it. And I agree with Daniel. We need to start figuring out who can run for these seats we're going to have to take control back. So I don't know if that answers your question, Jonathan, or not, or your suggestion.
Oh yeah, it does. No, 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 I get it. I get it. I was just offering it because maybe if you can't,
I get it.
if you can't get them to come all the way to where you want to be, maybe you can influence it enough that at least this stuff does get recorded in some way.
I think that would be good. If it
Point
was
it
at least
out.
recorded, I would like that.
Yeah.
But it's
I
not.
mean,
Yeah.
the point about the law, like that you brought up, like if this potentially they're violating the law, that it has to be recorded. So I don't know if that's like if you, Karen, if you think that this breakout could be violating that law, or if you have any idea on that, or
It absolutely violates the spirit of it, Andrew. I think that if you're not able to attend,
yeah.
think about pre-internet, pre-electronics, all that kind of stuff, right? You had to attend a meeting in person, right? But then the meeting would also produce meeting minutes. Like if you don't come to tonight's village board meeting, we also do produce meeting minutes. And you can read the meeting minutes and you can reach out and ask questions. There's nothing that these people get, so I do think it violates it, but again, if I try to make a motion on the board that we do something, the other seven will vote it down.
And
It's either 6-3 or 7-3, and it's usually 6-3 because the King's Contrivance board member never shows up. So
to follow what she was saying about the legality of it, any law that doesn't have an enforcement mechanism is just a piece of paper with words written on it.
Mhm.
So if no one's willing to actually enforce the law, then it is nothing. It just simply is nothing. So
Right.
if there's nothing to stop them from doing it, there's nothing to stop them from doing it.
I do know that there is a House bill currently in, in the state legislation about, requiring HOAs to record meetings. I don't know what the status of it. It was the hearing on it this last. When was that? Was it?
I saw the email.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. They
Yeah.
kept on sending me information about it. I'm not sure when exactly it was heard. I feel like I look at a lot of meeting dates, so they're all coming together in my head. But the other thing is one thing I wanted to say is there are many recurring themes that I see at the CA meetings, but one of them is that they always say that the residents are misinformed. CA, particularly the president and many of the CA board members are constantly saying, oh, well, the public is misinformed. That's not what's going to happen. If they said it when it came to the village venues, they said it when it came to the pool, and then many things in between. And one of the things, if somebody is misinformed over and over and over again, to me, that says something. Because the one thing about a lot of people who live on in the Columbia Association area, they do care and they do want to know and they are involved. So if they are misinformed, are they misinformed legitimately, or is the information that you're providing not clear, and B, is it information that ultimately we've been through this before, so we know where it's going. So it's not that we're misinformed, it's that you want us to hear something, but ultimately we've seen this before, so we know what the next step is. So we're coming out before it gets to that next step. And so I noticed it at, well, I noticed it at the last town hall, and then I noticed it at the meeting that I was at regarding this when they voted on the budget. And both times they said, oh, well, you know, there's a lot of misinformation out there. And it frustrated me because you can't just claim that. And exactly when you're trying to clarify that misinformation, well, you're clarifying it to meet your needs. Let's just put it that way.
It's their
Well,
job.
I will
to-
say this, Brigida, about the misinformation, and I'll use the pools as the example because the board member from Harper's Choice spoke up and said, oh, yeah, at that meeting, I had to tell a lot of people, your pool's not getting demolished. We are spending $350,000 on a concept on a splash pad that would end, that if we decide to adopt that, would mean a pool gets demolished. Why are we going, if your pool's not going to get demolished, why are we spending the money? So to me, that's a lot of doublespeak.
Mhm.
Oh, don't worry, we're not demolishing a pool yet. Okay, well, eventually you're spending all this money for this consultant to do this? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So I think, they kind of talk out of both sides of their mouths sometimes. It's very frustrating. And I think that some of them think, oh, this is a wonderful idea. And once everybody sees the concept, everyone will get on board. But we can't give them all the information now because demolishing their pools will upset them. Okay, demolishing their pools upsets them today. And after you produce the concept, demolishing their pools will upset them. This isn't a situation where they're going to be less upset because they're losing a pool and they're getting a water fountain. I just think it's a miss. I think some of the board members are misguided about approach.
Karen, one question I had to follow up on that. Do you know what the average annual charge is per household currently?
It's
Just like
about
a
$1,200.
$1,200. Okay,
But
so
if
it
you live,
sounds.
but Dan, keep this in mind. People in River Hill might pay as much as 8,000.
So I was just gonna lead into it that 250 people are paying what amount to their yearly CA fee just to find out that their pool is going to be demolished. They are paying to have this happen to them.
Yes. Yeah. And I will tell you this, Dan, in every survey that CA has ever done, the three high priority amenities, pools, play areas, pathways. Those are the things that everybody loves. Several people told me we moved to Columbia because there was a pool right here. We had a pool right on our street. They loved that. That's why they came here. So, yeah, you still have to pay your annual charge, and they will. And I just think that this whole thing is, if it's up to CA, they will take the pools away. We will lose the pools. That's all I got, Jonathan. I was just as positive as you.
Okay. This meeting started out so positive. It's turned very depressing.
Just gonna turn it around.
Regina, what do you have? Tell us our financials are great.
News. Okay, well, first we will start with the financials.
Not new.
But it's good news. We are in a good spot. Let me make sure I have the right document that I'm showing. Oh, that's not it. Wait a minute. I had it up and now it disappeared. Sorry about that. I was getting so passionate about other things. Okay. So, Debbie closed out our FY26 third quarter financials. And you all received in your packet the variance memo along with the financials. And based on Debbie's numbers and thinking of what we will spend in the fourth quarter, see, here's where the good news is. We have approximately looks like we're gonna have approximately above the 20% of cash reserves, we're allowed to keep, we're gonna have $34,000 left to spend. Now, I'm also not foolish enough to remember that we have very high utility bills, so I'm not really thinking that that's going to be 34,000. But everything looks really good. The one category that was, as you see, less than what I had predicted was in the special events. Our jazz concerts are down in numbers. And I don't really know why, but we are working to change that. We've tried some new advertising, different ways of reaching out to different people. And the other large category that is a big difference is the maintenance, repairs and maintenance. And that really just goes to the age of our building. There's just a lot of things that are happening. Our HVAC, even though our units were repaired, the neighborhood center units have particularly Stevens Forest had a lot of stuff that happened at the with their HVAC, and CA continues to make changes and put in new parts, but that is where a lot of our repairs came in. Our doors, our kitchen door and our door upstairs. The kitchen door, because it's old and it totally needs to be replaced. And our door leading into the loft, they put in a new door with a handicap mechanism. And the mechanism continues to break. And frankly, the company that they contract with, I don't particularly care for them, and they charge an astronomical amount of money, which I
Still
have.
a warranty if it's new?
No, it's
Oh.
not. I have voiced my opinion about my feelings towards that company. So, so that's why the repairs and maintenance are higher than what was anticipated. And frankly, costs are just more expensive than I don't know.
Okay, so there's this contractor who's just failing to fix the door and they keep it's CA that sends them back, or like if
No. So there's two different ways with repairs. Some we call and contract out ourselves, and some we have to work with whoever CA has contracted out.
Okay. Yeah.
So the door that we have upstairs, we put in a work order, and CA has a contractor that they work with particularly that comes out. So we don't get to switch. We have to go with whoever CA contracts with.
Is there still that, for lack of a better term, I guess, lemon clause in the contract where if CA keeps sending out the same vendor
Yes.
to do the same repair, we don't continue to pay for it?
That clause is in there, but the amount that clause relates to went
Oh,
up with
okay.
the last contract.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So,
So eventually, maybe we won't be paying
Yeah.
for it. Okay.
yeah. And then the other, our stove, a major component on my very least favorite stove in the kitchen, which apparently lasts forever, but a part needs to be replaced on it. So, and it's an old stove. So, I have things in this building I really don't particularly care for, in case you haven't noticed.
I saw one, I think, correction that needs to be made.
Okay.
In the variance expenses,
Mhm.
repairs and maintenance is line item 26.
You have 227s.
Oh, that's what you get for copying and pasting the number. Okay, I will fix that. So does anybody have any questions?
If we know the future entails higher utility costs, is it worthwhile for us to invest extra monies if there are any at the end of the year in potential renewable items such as solar panels to reduce future energy costs in the future?
So if we wanted to do that, we would have to put in a request to CA, and that's actually not out of our budget, that would be out of CA's budget, because that's an exterior alteration.
Gotcha.
Didn't CA evaluate this building, and because of the,
Because of the sloping
Slope.
roof, I don't feel it was a candidate.
That makes sense. It's an old
Yeah.
farm type roof, so just curious about that as a way of. And then I guess there are other buildings that might be a better candidate, but a lot of our stuff is covered in trees here, so I can't really say that much solar is. Stevens Forest, for example, is coated in leaves 24/7.
Well, and I will tell you that some of the things they are putting in place, Bill has kind of mentioned a couple of them, and I have followed up with them, but the lights, as they replace the lights, particularly I asked them to replace the lights upstairs and the fans, to put in all LED and to put in higher powered fans. So that's one of the things, because right now those fans are way up in the ceiling, they're very small, and so you need them to circulate the air, but if you really want it to be more beneficial, they need to be larger. So that's one thing we're looking at. And then the vents along the wall upstairs in the loft are very old, and the ductwork in this building, because there's not a lot of space to put the ductwork. So everything is right on top of each other. So the airflow really needs to be enhanced. And so one of the things they're looking at are the vents up there to make the airflow just overall better airflow, which I would imagine would also help with energy costs, because in the summer when it is hot, even with air conditioning, you get 100 people up there and it's warm.
And then to follow that same train of thought, if we ever had someone come through with like one of those not heat guns, but the IR detecting cameras to see where our heat loss is.
What are they called?
Basically, so I have a buddy who does insulation work, and effectively they have what amounts to cameras. They call them guns just because you have to click a little thing. But it will basically tell you where you are leaking large amounts of heat, cooling in the summer, and basically tell you where you should put better insulation, because a lot of times when it comes to more efficiency, the best thing is to keep the cold air in, keep the hot air out, or vice versa. And insulation is relatively inexpensive compared to putting in new fixtures. If you just have to do a little spray foam work, or if you need to put, say, new tubing around like the hot water to keep the hot water hot, you can save money. And if we're trying to get more efficient, because we know energy is only going to get more expensive, if we do have the capital budget funds to spend, say, at the end of the year, sometimes those kind of things can pay dividends.
I can certainly ask about that.
And a lot of times they'll do consultations for free, so you can get like what they think they call it like an art index when it comes to your insulation value. So because they obviously they want you to use them, you don't agree to pay them afterwards, but you could just get them to come out and do like the scanning for it, and you get an idea of like what areas need work.
I mean, that would be something that I would have to go through Josh as the facility manager. I do know they have done, I can't remember what they call it, but basically they're looking at the electrical design of the building, and tomorrow look again, all my meetings are meshed together. They're coming out in the next week again to kind of go through and look at a new design, because a lot of what happens too, the building is old, is we get a lot of shorts in the building. So
I hope this isn't a dumb question, but does this building even have insulation? Because
yeah,
I thought upstairs those
not very much.
those planks just go
They are
to the
right on
outside
top
and then
of
they're
each
covered
other.
in shingles, right?
They start right here,
Okay.
right? But
Okay.
between the upstairs and there, I don't think there's any.
Well, Ellen, I was talking to Ellen today because I was talking to her and I was looking towards her windows and I saw like it looked like holes. And she was like, yeah, it's really drafty over here because the windows, there's like in the frame, there's like weird, like little hole things. I don't know. So the windows are always a place to look and make sure.
A tube of cotton
They're sealed.
save you a lot of money. Like I'm saying,
Well, I will definitely ask Josh about that.
it's a non-invasive technique. They just kind of scan it and it tells you where heat's coming from.
Okay.
You can save money. You can save money.
You need to vote on the financials, don't
I
you?
do need to vote on this.
This looks good.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the financials with the minor correction to repairs and maintenance? Motion from Andrew, second from Bill. Any further discussion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 0.
Okay, thank you. While I'm on that, as I mentioned, we do have that money to spend. Each of you were sent kind of a spreadsheet of some ideas, and Jonathan wanted me to circulate that in case anybody had any big objections to that. They can, if you all are okay with it, do the painting prior to the end of the fiscal year, which would be very exciting. And they can also, if we got to order new chairs before the summer wedding season, that would also be very exciting. So if nobody has any issues with that, okay, on to the next.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, sounds good.
So that's what I'm saying. Did you? Oh, the investment policy, yes, so, the last two weeks ago, Julia from the president's office sent out a list of everything that the villages have to provide that is new according to the new management agreement. Took them a while to get everything together, but they provided us a list, and one of those items was to have an investment policy. And we reached out to the person who did our audit, the CPA, and asked, because many of us did not have one, what an investment policy for our type of organization might look like. So he provided us with an example, and I have shared it with everybody as an attachment. And this was, I'll tell you that I worked with Laura over at Hickory Ridge, who we all worked with Vince from the CPA's office. And this is the policy that we came up on. We don't have to share it with CA, but we are supposed to have a board approved investment policy in our files. And it has to be reviewed and approved every year. So you don't have to approve it tonight, because I know it's your first time looking at it, but we haven't had it for this long, so if it has to wait till the next meeting, that's absolutely fine.
So when I look at this, I mean, other than some of, excuse me, some of the, reporting out, because you're also the treasurer, we're already doing this.
We are doing everything
Yes.
on here, yeah.
Yeah. So, I noticed there are a couple of blanks, like how much we're
Yes.
keeping and checking to cover operating expenses. Maybe that was the only one.
I think that was the only one, yeah. It is.
Oh, and then maximum maturity on
Mhm.
CDs, which I think you can just fill that in based on the CD we already hold. I think we still hold a CD, right?
We do, yeah.
The operating expenses, I thought somewhere along the way, maybe it was just informally decided, but I thought we already have a standard for that, or do we not?
Jonathan,
Well, we
if
can just fill in that blank.
do, I will look for it.
Okay.
I don't know is the honest answer, so
Okay.
I will look. And number 7.
Or maybe it was just one of those things that Sandy and I discussed during, COVID, when we were looking at the financials and kind of figuring out how long can we go.
Have definitely.
Yeah,
helped.
yeah. But those two blanks, we may already be able to fill in with, based on what we're doing. I
Okay.
mean, we could change that, but we may as well start with our baseline.
Well, I do know that the CD that we have, it's 9 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question. I seem to remember, like, within the last year or so, hearing that like any money that we have at the end of the year has to be sent back to CA, like any excess money. But we had money to invest that seems to not mesh with.
Yes, I agree, but there is a stipulation where we can keep. And I don't know exactly where it is, but there's a stipulation that we can keep a certain amount in a CD.
Okay.
Obviously, it's
Okay.
not very much,
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
but Yes, and you are correct. We're allowed to keep up to 20%, and then beyond that, we have to return
Okay,
in our annual budget.
okay.
But yes, you are correct.
This is question. We'll see how long this.
Yeah. So that is the investment policy. And well, the big news outside of that, and outside of the fact that we have excess money to spend at the end of the year, our election happened and there was no contested election. So
Congratulations.
that concluded on Friday. And I'm sure you all received an email from Carrie today. If you haven't, I know it's in your inbox. And I wanted to thank the election monitoring committee and Amy, who put out all the paperwork, et cetera, and all of the online stuff. But the election monitoring committee is very responsive and very helpful. So I just want to make sure that they were publicly thanked, because they are a good resource and always give me feedback and very good feedback.
Is it the same 5 people who are gonna be next year, or?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
Board's back.
Okay.
yes, so it's
Just the same.
Okay.
it's exactly the same.
Okay.
But of course, because it'll be a new board year, we'll have to do all of the paperwork all over again for the new board year.
Fun of it.
That's the fun of it, yes. As far as events, we did have a board game night. Was that Wednesday?
27th of February. So it's 2 weeks ago. Almost, well, a week and a half ago.
Yeah, so on the February 27th, we had a board game night. It was a free event that you had to register for. And unfortunately, like most free events, people sign up, but they don't come. We did have about 10.
Yeah, I mean, we had 3, 6. Yeah, 10.
About 10 people, but they had fun. The people who did come, and the pizza was good. So it was a very nice.
It was a very positive experience.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
It was definitely.
I like that idea. Are you guys going to do that again? Because I had to miss, and that was something I really was looking at to that's something I would like to
Well,
attend.
maybe if we do something, I don't want to spend the money on pizza. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Because we spent, not a lot, but like we planned on like 19 people and we only had 10, so we had a lot of extra pizza. So it's kind of like the pool parties, I don't want to spend that much on pizza. So we might look at like different food or something like that.
Yeah.
Make it cost less.
But I mean, the people over here had a great time. So.
Do you bring
And-
your own games to that, or did we supply the games?
They brought their own.
Well,
Okay.
they were supposed to.
Well, yeah. Amy brought a lot of.
I brought games and people played my games because I have a credit card monopoly that's really fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Other exciting news is the soft launch of our new website will be this Sunday,
Actually, Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
I keep on wanting to put it on the wrong day. We will be sending out a community email announcing that, so when people go to the website, they won't be surprised at what they see. Again, thank you to Amy, who has been working long and hard on this, and Robin is coming or calling to kind of go
Tomorrow,
through
yeah.
everything to ensure.
He's gonna start like doing some of the settings, and then Sunday he'll kind of initiate it. It takes sometimes 24 hours for the domain to actually switch over to the new website. So it'll be the same domain, oaklandmills.org. It'll just have a new look. So
Thank you to anybody who provided feedback on that. And lastly, we have hired one additional event facility assistant. And she will, she's come in for her tour and paperwork, and she'll start her training on the day of the jazz concert on March 22nd. We are looking for probably one more, just so we have a large number to pick from. And I think that's everything, because I'm guessing Bill is gonna talk about the board's bridge, are you talking about that?
Oh, I can mention that here in board bulletin.
Okay,
Okay,
so that's all I.
all right, thank you. Well, we're on to the bulletin board. Amy?
Yay, I actually have something to say. When
Oh.
I found out that you all are coming back for the board, I was very excited. I'm happy to get to work with all of you again, so team is still here. It's a good team.
Thanks.
I agree,
Okay.
I ditto.
I'll double ditto. And I sent out Brigida sent out an email to all the board members that they're new owners of the Forest Ridge apartment complex. She supplied the website for the new owners and the website for the management company of the complex. I read through all of that, and hopefully the ownership and management will continue a good situation there. And at some point, when they've been owners long enough to get their feet on the ground with that complex, I think it might be a good idea maybe if Jonathan and Brigida and I met with the new owners to see where they're going to take the complex, et cetera.
Hey, Bill, do you know if they own any other apartment buildings in Columbia?
I'm not sure about Columbia. My opinion on their website is that they were heavily focused on numbers in terms of apartment complexes, housing units, money invested, et cetera. They also had a focus on the residents in the residential community. I was kind of surprised by the amount of number focus that they had. Now, they are very large from what they have on their websites. Um, and I'm hoping that I was a little bit disappointed that there wasn't more about people in their website. Okay, but that's just my personal opinion. I have been to the website of the consulting company that is working with the Housing Commission on the Verona. That website I felt was more comprehensive and had a much wider point of view than what they discussed. They discussed numbers. Their main focus, in my opinion, was integrating with the community where the complexes were that they had redeveloped, et cetera. I was very happy with that situation. But I think it'd be very important that we meet with the new owners once they get their feet on the ground, we can get a better feel.
So who owned it before?
I forget
Enterprise.
the,
Wasn't it Enterprise?
Yeah, so the
It-
new owners are they like really corporate or are they like?
I would say they're a lot like Enterprise. They're a corporation that deals heavily with housing for below, I'll call it housing for below AMI.
Yeah, that's.
Housing for people who make below the area median income.
Okay. That's what I'm.
I'm actually looking at this is the owners, not the management company, what they do, and the second bullet says they seek to acquire and redevelop existing affordable housing properties built under federal low-income housing tax credit and or Section 8 programs. So, I mean, honestly, what I'm hoping they'll do is acquire and redevelop because, Forest Ridge is what, 55 years old now?
Yes.
Having spent time there, it's not in great shape. And it's old. I mean, some of that's age. Even with great maintenance, it probably wouldn't be in the greatest shape in the world, just being 55 years old. So it'd be interesting to see if this property fits that that second bullet where it says they acquire and redevelop.
Hey, Bill, I
Yes.
wonder if Paulette and the tenants committee, like what they're hearing from the folks from Forest Ridge, like how they like the new management. Is it nobody
Well,
likes change, but
it just started last week.
oh, okay.
The transaction date was March 5th. So
Okay.
they've only been owners for 5 days, so there probably wouldn't be any initial reaction yet.
Okay.
The management company also seems to specialize in basically working with clients like Forward Housing that are, I don't know whether Forward Housing is nonprofit, but basically working with clients who own uh LIHTC and Section 8 properties, among other things. So, I mean, you know, it sounds like the ownership and management company, both have expertise in this area.
Yes, I mean, that's basically what they do. This is their specialty based on what I read on their websites. So that's my bulletin board.
Okay. My bulletin board is, I guess, tripled it up. I was very happy to see that the team is staying together and look forward to continuing to work with all of you.
Nothing for me.
I'll just say let's run it back. Let's do it again.
All right.
Mhm.
Paulette, anything?
Nope. Just happy to be back.
All right. Karen?
I will just reiterate what everyone else said. I'm glad that the band is back together for another season. I do really like working with this group, and I think that everybody here is really good resident. We have a really good, strong staff, good board, so I'm really pleased. Thank you.
That sounds like a good note to end on. We're adjourned.
Right, good night, everybody.
Good night. Yes.
Good night.